Hi, and welcome to the Art of Life, Liberty, and Happiness podcast. I'm Christine Dart, marketing aficionado, visual artist, and adventure seeker. I'm passionate about helping people create their dream lives and businesses while they pursue everything that makes them happy. If you've been wanting to level up your life and follow your joy, but aren't quite sure how to do it, well, you've tuned into the right podcast to get inspired. Join me in conversation with unique and interesting people from all over the world as we uncover their journeys, how they've crafted their lives to get to where they are today, and what happiness means to them. Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of the Art of Life, Liberty, and Happiness podcast. Today, I've got my friend Diante to join us, and he comes from an IT background, over 10 years in IT. He also has his own company called Loud, which we'll talk a little bit about. It's a passion project. And what he loves to do is to build and to create all kinds of things. So we'll get into that. So Diante, I'd love to pass the mic over to you to just tell me a little bit about your background and about why you do what you do.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. Again, my name is Diante. I've been in IT for 10 years, all aspects from the ground up. Your typical infrastructure teams I've worked with in corporate America. I've done a little bit of sales, and now I'm in the healthcare aspect of it all. And as of right now, it is non-stop. So definitely a ride, but excited to be here for sure.
Yeah. So what has that been like working in healthcare IT in the middle of a pandemic?
About as crazy as you think it could be. The pandemic pretty much propelled everything times 10. Lots of implementations taking place. You wouldn't think the impact would be as grand, right? So one of the things that I deal with in healthcare is the fetal monitoring aspect, right? So there are pregnant mothers out here, they've got to deliver, right? I actually just had a pandemic baby a few months ago.
Yeah.
And yep. And I think there we go. Battery almost died. Sorry. In terms of these mothers that, have to deliver during a pandemic, COVID is a beast. There are certain things that have to take place. And everyone from myself to the people that are actually in the hospitals have to take as many precautions as they can to make sure that not only those mothers are okay, but that they're okay and they're able to make it back to their families. And honestly, it's been nonstop. And I'm really hoping and praying that we'll see this end soon. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case with Omicron. I think that's the name, or Omarion, however they say it.
No, you're right the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a definite tax, I think, on us as like humans, and our human experience in society. So you enjoy what you do, but at the same time, you're like, man, like sometimes I think I just need a little bit of a break, but I don't know if I can afford that right now.
Yeah. So to give everyone a little bit of background, I had put out a poll on Instagram a few weeks ago asking people whether they had worked less hours since the pandemic, since obviously we know a lot of people lost their jobs and, that's been a struggle for some people. And then on the flip side, there's been a lot of people that have been working crazy amounts of hours. So Diante had mentioned he was one of the people working crazy amounts of hours. And so my next question that I had put in this little Instagram survey I did was, what do you feel has been the cause of the extra hours? Like why you've been working so many? And he put something, which is kind of what I was alluding to with this survey, which is I didn't respect my own boundaries. Because I have a feeling boundaries, both respecting your own and also for employers, respecting those of your employees has been kind of a big thing in this remote work world. So can you tell me a little bit more about what did you mean when you said you didn't respect your own boundaries?
Yeah. To an extent, being a yes man, wanting to make sure that you get the job done. We all want to get the job done, right? Especially those that are goal oriented. The problem with that is that that's a double-edged sword. And if you swing too hard, it might come back around and clock you, right? So um, that's my thought process on it. I've probably survived 3 burnouts since the pandemic. Just trying to make sure that, everything is in order. But I think to an extent it's a facade, right? Again, we create our boundaries. And when there are none, there are none, and people can take them as far as they want, or you can take them as far as you want, and not even really understanding what you're doing to yourself. So the impact that comes from it, for some can be literally detrimental, right? You could be sacrificing yourself for, you might say it's for the greater good, but that's where it comes back to those boundaries and what is important to you. What are the things that you hold near and dear? And are you doing it for them, or do you think you're doing it for them? And you've kind of got to readjust that energy and that path that you're walking. Right.
Yeah. So what are some strategies, I guess, that you've used to try to make sure, I mean, it's clearly it's difficult for a lot of people to set boundaries. So maybe what do you think is so difficult about it for most people?
I think the most important thing for me, I would say, is organization. If you're not organized, if you don't have structure for yourself, you don't even know where to begin, because you don't know where the start and the finish line is, right? So structure is number one. Number two, I would say, I would have to say for number two, we're gonna have to make sure that you're in line with if you have a significant other, make sure that there's open communication, right? There needs to be an understanding. There needs to be an understanding of how far, you all mutually agree to say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and once I get to this point, no matter what, I've got to honor that, right?
Yeah.
It's commitment, right? You're in a commitment with that person. You've got to honor them. You've got to honor their time, just like you've got to honor your time. So I think those are probably the 2 biggest values for me, and the biggest values that I picked up on over the last year and a half, 2 years, since things have kind of ramped up.
What have been some things you've been doing to implement the structure? So when you say structure, like what kinds of like framework are you talking about?
Yeah, simple things like emails, right? On your calendar, right? Set up blocks of time to give to yourself, right? Just for a moment. You might don't, because if you're in the office, right, you're not going to sit there at your cube for like 10 hours. It's just not happening. You're going to stand up, you're going to go talk to folks in the office and, shoot the, I don't want to curse, but, for, 15, 20 minutes, just check on folks, see how they're doing, right? So why aren't we doing that at home, right? Because it's convenient. We're already at our desk. We're communicating over, whatever we use to communicate within work. So it's like, oh, we don't have to step away. We can just kind of multitask, right? Let's talk and chat while we're working. So you're never really giving yourself that time to kind of step away. And if you didn't do that in the office, there's a pretty good chance you're not doing that work from home. So I could only imagine what some folks are doing, right? But yeah, blocking time off on your calendar saying, okay, this is personal time. I need 15 minutes to go and do whatever I want. If I just want to turn on the TV, if I want to take the dogs for a walk, if I want to go make some breakfast, you have that time allotted. And without it, everything just starts to blend over and over because you can always find something else to do. Oh yeah, I've got this coming up. Yeah, let me just jump on this really quick. And next thing you know, it's like the end of the day. So
yeah. So do you use, when you're doing time blocking on your calendar, do you use like recurring time slots or?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've kept it very strict.
Okay.
Same days, right? Monday through Friday, obviously. Same times. And no matter what, it's like, hey, sorry, I know you need this, but got to do this right here. I've got something coming up. Right.
Yeah.
And
you're not in my calendar. So
yeah. And the thing is that if you allow individuals to kind of push and you don't respect that line, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, they might not be doing it intentionally, but for self, you're like, I really don't want to do this. I know it's only going to take an extra 5 minutes, but okay, I'll do it. And that becomes a habit for you, allowing yourself to be involved in something a little bit longer than you've agreed with yourself, right? So it's all about honoring self, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. I have found myself being so guilty of that. I learned how to do the time blocking, set it all up, and it was amazing the first couple of weeks. And then I started noticing that I'd be like, oh yeah, I can do that real quick. Or like, and all of a sudden, like my meditation block I had like just became I didn't use it anymore. Like other stuff would go in there because I wasn't disciplined about respecting my own boundaries for that. So that's definitely something I've learned. And I have a feeling a lot of others kind of have that same boundary respect issue with themselves. And I mean,
and I don't
go ahead.
I feel like it isn't okay. So when you say the boundary and respect, when I heard it there, it sounds so bad, and it is bad when you don't respect it, right? But it's not the end of the world. Like there are opportunities every day that we can take to kind of like change that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I think outside of the poll that you did, right? It's really weird, but this is like the season to talk about this because I've probably met 7 or 8 people, within a week period of that poll that was done, where that conversation just started to organically happen, right? With everyone feeling the same way. And so when I saw you posted, I'm like, oh no, this needs to be talked about like ASAP because this is like a real thing. It's not just me going through it. Everyone on Instagram is living life and enjoying it. But like in real life, for the folks that are like working, like there's like some real conversations that folks need to have with themselves that aren't just impacting them, but maybe impacting their loved ones, and I'm glad that you're bringing it here because it tells me that one, you care and you want people to be aware that there are conversations that they need to have with themselves that they may not be having.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it's not just work, it's at home too. And I think with those blending together with a lot of the remote work environment, it's extra tough because they're maybe not only not setting boundaries with their employer, but also with, their, like you said, their significant other, or their kids, or things like that. And next thing you know, like their health is deteriorating. So they're not sleeping because it's just always like giving.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're, like when your cup's empty, it's empty. You can't keep giving from an empty cup and then you get sick. And like, that's nature's way of just being like, well, you didn't slow down. So now like you have to sit down.
Yeah.
And if you don't make the time for yourself and respect your own boundaries beforehand, that's when you end up either in burnout or you're physically sick or both. Like I've definitely had both, this year a couple of times, and it's not pretty when that happens, but it's almost like a psychological lesson that we have to learn, where you have to learn like, hey, I am enough. I'm worth it. I'm worthy enough to be creating this space for myself and setting this time for myself. So like right now, I am between jobs. I quit my previous job because a number of factors, but it was just time for something else. And I was burnt out. And sometimes that's also part of it. You just need to change a scenery as well. Oh, yeah. And I told myself, like, I am not starting another job until mid-January. So I gave myself a full almost 2 months off just to decompress. And I was like, I need to, like, I cannot rush into another thing because I need to have this time for myself. So that was like me not respecting my own boundary for so many months, really for a couple of years, till I finally was like, okay, like I'm setting this boundary on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. You went from no boundaries. You went from no boundaries to bringing down Thor's hammer. Like, no, we're setting boundaries for 2 months.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And I'm happy for you. and proud to see that, you have the courage and the strength to be able to make the best decisions for you, no matter what society is pushing out there, right? Like that's empowerment right there. Being able to seize your moment and do what's absolute for you, right? So congrats. Yep. Anu likes it as well. Yeah, you like it, bud? Okay.
Oh, he's so cute. Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because I feel like it's like a muscle, because once you start flexing that like boundary muscle, and my friend Kina calls it honoring your no. Once you start flexing it, like you start like seeing more areas in your life where you can kind of flex it a little, and like stuff where you normally were like, oh, I don't want to say no to that person, or like, oh, I should, like, I don't know, you just get into these weird little things and you start seeing yourself doing it. And you're like, oh, this is an area where I can say no. And just practicing that. And it's like, you just become, I don't know, a more powerful version of yourself, but in a healthy way.
Agreed. I think there were times when I was, even younger, where, someone says, oh, well, hey, if opportunity comes, always take it. If this happens, take it. Say yes to this, say yes to that. So I think there was a little bit of programming of, okay, well, we have to say yes to get things done, or yes is always good. Yes isn't always good, right? The power of no is just is out of this world. And I think we just kind of have to remember that there's a balance in everything, right? There's yin and yang. So we got to be able to handle both. So that's awesome.
Yeah. There was a thought I had and it just flew away, but that's okay. I think, that's what I was going to say. You know how whenever we face challenges, there's always some sort of lesson in it, right? So, and sometimes those challenges are collective, global pandemic and all of the different struggles that come along with that and difficulties we've been facing. And so I believe even at a collective level, when bad things happen, there's still some sort of lesson that can be reaped from it. So I think a lot of these people facing burnout, I think it's kind of like almost a universal lesson to learn how to honor boundaries and like respect your no and for things. So, we all keep, I think you're a little bit spiritual. So kind of in the spiritual community, we keep talking about this like kind of new paradigm that's being ushered in right now. And I've heard so many different perspectives on it from depending on like what kind of background people are coming from, like religious backgrounds or otherwise. But everybody seems to feel like there's this new thing coming in. So I feel like that's kind of part of it, right? Is learning how to say no to the old ways.
Yeah. That's, I haven't sat back and thought about it from that perspective, but it makes sense. There's definitely something in the air.
Yeah,
definitely something in the air. But sometimes you gotta destroy to rebuild, and
exactly.
I think hopefully we're in the finishing phase of the destroying.
Yeah, or maybe it's like waves, right? Like there's like just on different levels that's happening, different things getting destroyed, and there's little waves of it, and good things coming in too, hopefully. Along with that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't expect to go down that rabbit hole, but it just kind of. One of the
once you start bringing in the universe, anything is possible, right?
Exactly. So. Yep. I truly believe that. One of the things I also want to talk about while we're on the burnout topic is it's like multifaceted, the way that's happening. So we're talking about it kind of from an employee level and, just like honoring our own time. But there's also the employer level. So, I just came from the employee world, and that was kind of a newer world for me after being self-employed for 6 years before that. And so I can kind of see both perspectives of things. And I think this also isn't just like business owner level, but also like management, leadership kind of level. Mm-hmm. I think that there is some exploitation of people not taking advantage of their own boundaries, right? And some of it's probably cognizant, but I think there's also some of it being like leaders not knowing how to deal with the demand and short, a lot of companies are short staffed right now. That's another crazy topic. So like the whole great resignation thing, right? That's a big honoring your no. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I think there's a lot of like employers and managers and leaders that don't necessarily know like how to navigate these new waters we're in. So I think some of that ends up contributing to this burnout culture. And what's crazy is you hear them saying too, like, oh, like you got to take care of yourself, don't burn out, but also like, I need this by midnight. Yeah. So it's like a little of both. So I think it's finding that balance. So for employers and leaders that are out there, I think that there's just some figuring out how to maybe give people the tools so that they can learn how to set their own boundaries. Because I think there's actually an increase of productivity when you do that. So like teaching employees how to time block and, respect their own time and how to fill their own cup and stuff like that. Like, how do you manage your time better so you're productive and get done what you need to, but so that you're not like freaking burned out and miserable and exhausted and sick too. So I think that employers have some responsibility there to learn how can we best help provide tools for this and implement this. And that's almost like a new part of like our workforce, at least in the US anyway, hasn't been that way where it's like, oh, we really need to care about employee health. Like, yeah, here's a gym membership or something like that. But I think that leaders now need to be more educated in how to help provide these tools for better productivity, better time and energy management, all of that. And so that's like kind of a new world I think people need to be dabbling in the corporate world.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, this is a new style of management, but I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Is, do you think the default mindset of a manager is, from an employee standpoint, there's no work or there's less work being done? Like, why does an employee, do you think, feel as though they need to do more and more and more? Is it because the employee thinks that the manager thinks that they could be doing more? Or is it being pushed by those?
I think it's both. And I think it depends on how big the organization is. So I take it you're coming from a pretty large company where you work. So that's going to be a totally different structure. So for there, it's like you're dealing with like different tiers of management, and like they've probably got someone above them that's hounding them, and they're probably burnt out too. And they're probably like just scrambling to get stuff done in the middle. And so I think it's a little of both. And I think you also get the people that are like, shoot, man, I feel bad assigning you like 10 more things to do, but like, we have to get this done. And like, I'm burnt out too. And like, it's just, I feel like a slippery slope of chaos where everybody's like not knowing how to deal with it. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's also employees, especially I think greener, like more entry-level employees, just like not knowing that like, hey, I can put my foot down here, so it's just a little, but I don't know. It's crazy. I think it's really hard to keep up. And then there's also kind of like the consumer or client demand, depending on what kind of business you're in. So like, I just came from the consulting business. So like the client demand is excessive because they're all super busy, but also where that gets messed up is upfront with like when like something's being sold. So a consulting service, for example, expectations not being set properly up front, where it's like, hey, like this is what to expect. And something, because I come from a marketing background. So marketing is something where it's extremely broad. So people will automatically think they get like everything marketing all the time. And it's like, okay, well, you're talking about a team of like 30 people or, not like 2 people and like paying only for this many hours a week. So I think there's expectations from clients that need to get managed. So it's still more of like time and energy management. It's just in a different way. It's like management of services or output. And then from, companies that are serving consumers, like our consumer demand has gone crazy, and we're like, that's a whole can of worms too, but it's just like getting used to shipping, in 1 to 2 days, Amazon, right? Getting used to having things instantly where, we've got smartphone culture where we're just used to instant knowledge and instant gratification. Everything's so fast and instant now that we're just expecting it. And on top of that, we've been used to this cheap pricing for decades because we've been outsourcing to, countries where labor is much cheaper, but also like labor is not fair either. So there's like that whole debacle. And now we're dealing with the, whole trade scenario and now supply chain issues. So it's just this whole thing where there's just crazy demand's not able to be fulfilled. Everybody's scrambling to fulfill demand. It's not sustainable for people, for laborers, for companies, for the environment.
So what you're saying is just throw the whole thing away and start from scratch is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I'm saying I don't know the answer, but I'm just saying I see these ripple effects happening, and I think we all have a little bit of responsibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. It gets complex, and I guess it has to start from somewhere, right? So you've got to have your foot soldiers. Are the foot soldiers the one that do it, or are it the generals and the admirals and the captains, right? I'm not here to put responsibility on any particular job role. I do agree with you in that it is a collective. And I guess maybe that's what this whole conversation is for everyone, whether if you're an entry level or whether if you're a CEO, you'll have that ability to just at least listen to some folks who've gone through it and take what you can from it, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, like what's popping in your mind right now for whoever is listening? Like, I'm sure it's bringing up some kind of feelings for each person in some way. And it's like, is there something that, that inner voice has been telling you that maybe you need to take action on? So maybe it's on like, hey, I actually need to quit this job because this job is not right for me. I think a lot of people are getting that message right now. People are getting a message like, I've not been stepping into my purpose or into like what fulfills me, and it's time I need to do that. I think that's one thing. Or people are getting the message of like, hey, you've not been respecting yourself. You need to learn how to set better boundaries and work better. Even if this is for some people too. It's not your employer, but it's like you're not managing your own time because you're distracted scrolling through your cell phone, and you're like the reason you're doing that is because you're not listening to something else inside. So I think it's just a lot of like, what is that inner voice telling you, regardless of where you're at?
Yeah,
there's a little
wow. Okay.
That happening.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. If your focus, if you have lack of focus, why are you distracted? And usually there's somewhere inside where you've got to kind of figure that out. That's super deep.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. That's not an overnight.
I'm with you on that because I used to be on social media just scrolling and YouTube, and I realized that I was putting my time in places that I really didn't care about, and I think I was just allowing time to pass. Right? I wasn't seizing my moment. I wasn't, taking advantage of my opportunities. I was just like, and I think that kind of went into the burnout. It went into the mental health aspect, right? I was finding a different way to be stimulated. And unfortunately, that is a whole different conversation, right? Of mental health and, but it still goes kind of in this whole thing, right? Why are you doing the things, that you're doing, or why aren't you doing the things that you want to do? Are you pushing something aside because it's too hard? Are you pushing it aside because you're afraid? Are you not respecting your boundaries because you're afraid of what might happen if you do? Are you afraid that you actually might be a strong individual? Some people are actually afraid of their own power. Some people are afraid of their own power. They don't know how far it can take them. And that could be a little overwhelming when you're stepping into areas that are unfamiliar, right? The complacency is comfortable, but the complacency is most of the time never good.
Why do you think some people might be afraid of their own power? I agree with you, but I'm wondering your perspective on that.
Again, it's the unknown. It's the unknown. It's it's wanting to be able to keep that energy, keep that feeling, keep that thought in a box. You know, you want to categorize it. You want to put it here and say, okay, this is what this is. And I know what this is. And if I ever want this, I can go to this, right? But if you've got this box over here with a question mark and you just have no idea what's in it if you open it, that can be a little scary, right? Depending on I guess your personality, right? If you're adventurous and outgoing, maybe you're more willing to try and open up that box, right? But again, if you're just used to doing the same thing over and over again because you appreciate repetition, and maybe you like to get better at repetition, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, are you able to expand, you know, once you reach that limit? Probably not. But the fear is real. I've been a victim of my own fears, you know, as well in the past growing up. So a lot of this, yeah, I'm hypothetically speaking for folks, but a little projecting here and there happening as well. And yeah, I've definitely been in a position to where I was afraid to be great at something, until I realized that, like, it's awesome to be great at anything, right? So why not?
What do you think made you make that realization, or like what empowered you to snap out of it?
Stepping into the fear.
Okay.
Stepping into it, just facing it on, you know, understanding that, you know, yeah, it could go really bad. It might go good, but it could go really bad, but still making that decision to move forward in that direction anyway. Courage is a superpower of ours, right? Stepping past to what could limit us could be one of our greatest achievements. It's the reason why we are where we are as a society today, right? Is because people have continued to step out on their courage. And I will always empower anyone to step out on their courage. It doesn't matter what it is, unless it's something a little wild. But, you know, go for it. If you want to do it, go for it. Don't be afraid. We all have the ability to conquer the fears that, you know, kind of keep us held back.
Heck yeah. I appreciate that. So going back onto, you know, reasons why people might be afraid to step into their power. So this is like me projecting a little of something I would say I'm still working on overcoming, but I feel like I've to a degree overcome it. And it's the fear of being abandoned or being disliked. Or the fear of like people walking away from you, right? Which I think a lot of us will carry that kind of stuff from childhood. Well, I think generally most things we carry come from childhood. And so it's being afraid to step into that next thing or be powerful and say no and stuff like that. Because we're afraid if I say no, then people aren't going to love me, or people are going to walk away, or, you know, like, cause I'm disobeying them or something like that. So that's an interesting one. I think that also a fear for people of stepping into power.
Yeah.
So, getting deep on this episode. I like it.
Oh, I know. I wasn't expecting to get this deep, but I think you just you opened up something to where it hit a nerve, and I have to talk about it. So I'm sorry if I'm going too far, but
no, you're not.
I think I'm really glad that this avenue is open, because again, I haven't seen people talk about these sorts of things, right? These are everyday things that we, as not just Americans, but, you know, humans all across the world, I'm sure, are dealing with. And to see that there are other people that are, you know, that have the thoughts that have come with it, right? And there are other folks out here that have stepped into their power to make the best decision for themselves, i.e. you. You know, it's just great to have that conversation. It's needed. And I think this is going to be, for anyone that's listening, I really think that you should continue to follow her podcast, because she talks about some really, really good things. And she's helping out a lot more than I think she realizes. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I started this podcast because I've been saying, like, for years that I wanted to do one, just because I've always loved podcasts, and I meet a lot of cool people just kind of randomly. And I'm always like telling other people like, oh, you should like hear about this person I met. And this is this thing that they care about. And like, this is what they're like. I'm always telling people about the other people I've met. And when I get a chance, which it's difficult, you know, a lot of people I meet live all over the world, but like when I can get them in one room for my birthday or something, at least people locally, it's always fun for me to mix all these different personality types and just, I don't know, people with such interesting different backgrounds and things they care about and all that. So the podcast I've seen as a way for me to be able to do that. And just by discussing, you know, topics that I try to think about what topics my guests care about. And that's what I want to go into. It's not like, oh, this is what the podcast is about and this is what it has to be. But for me, it's like, let's like pull out what you care about and talk about what you're passionate about. And I just think that's, I don't know. Yeah, it is awesome to be able to have this venue and anybody can buy a microphone and just do it.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how to do all the fancy audio and video stuff yet. And I'm learning a little bit at a time, but for me, it's more important to get the message out than to worry about the perfection of all that stuff. So, yeah.
I like that. Get the message out. I'm going to write that one down. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Do it. So anyway, I wasn't expecting such a nice compliment. So it got me, I forgot what I was going to talk about before, but, I did want to talk about how we met just because I think that's a fun story. So Diante and I met on kayaks, we were in Tulum, just north of Tulum. Yeah. So we were just out on the water and he comes up and we see this giant stingray, like swimming underneath us. So we're just sitting there staring at the stingray on kayaks and start talking. And my friend that I was in Mexico with, we found out lives in the same city that Diante lives in. They were both into cars. So yeah,
crazy.
Cars always uniting everybody. I feel like
every time. Yeah. How can you not be an advocate of cars? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. They're the for me, it's the ride that matters the most. So. That was an amazing trip, by the way. That was probably hands down my favorite trip I've taken. I've been to a few different places. That experience in Tulum was out of this world.
Yeah.
Out of this world. Yeah.
Tell me more.
So typically when I leave the country, I do so to disconnect from everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything. I've been to Playa del Carmen, which is about an hour north. Before. That was a pretty cool experience. But Tulum was just where we were, you know, that little 2-mile dirt road off the highway was just like everything to me, right? Because it was the basic living standard for me, right? I didn't need much. I realized that I didn't need much when I was out there. I took the Colectivo, you know, to and from getting to downtown. And it was just an experience. And, you know, to just meet you all out there, 1,000, 1,500 miles away. And, you know, he's from the same city that I'm from. And we're out there on kayaks. And there's like a 7-8 foot stingray, manta ray, whatever you want to call it, swimming under us. And I just had a great conversation with you all. I mean, not to mention the fear of walking down that dirt road, not knowing that there's jaguars around. That was probably.
Wait, did you see one?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I didn't know. I didn't know that they were in
cardiac arrest.
So I knew that they were further south because there's a national park like on the south side of Tulum. So I knew that they were down that way. I didn't know they were in our area.
So that's the thing. So they just had signs. I think they were like generic, right? But me and my girlfriend, we would walk from the hotel to the main road to catch the Colectivo. Again, that's like a 1.5 mile walk.
Yeah, and you're walking
the woods. Yo, so I'm sitting here thinking like, man, like I need, like, where's my knife? Like anything can come out. It could be a mob of people that's just like, you know what? You're not from here. Let's go get you. Or it could have been a whole jaguar jump over the fence and like kidnap me. And there's nothing I can do about it. So I was a little nervous, but the thing is, I didn't know there were jaguars until we were heading back to the airport. And she's like, there's jaguars in this area. And I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about? She's like, look at the signs. And I'm like, yo, you've been having me walk down this dirt road, this sketchy dirt road with no lights for almost 2 weeks with possible jaguars in the area. And she was like, I thought you saw it. And I'm just like, dear God, like, thank you. Thank you for letting me make it through this experience. I'd do it again, but I'm definitely not walking to the main road to get the Colectivo. I'm just going to get a taxi next time.
I think we were only there for 4 days, and we went Boujee, and we got the taxi cabs the whole time.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I mean, I definitely like walked up and down that road a bit and stuff just to check it out. So that's funny. And it's funny because so I knew that they were in the national park, and one of my girlfriends, she had stayed down there this was a long time ago before Tulum turned into like Influencerville. But she was staying down there at some like little house or something a few years ago for like a month or two. And they would walk along the beach, and there was like a farmer or something close by to where they were staying. They were on the south side. And he said that I think it was like one of the rivers would get high or something. The jaguars would be like come over to the other side, and they would walk up and down the beach and hunt on the beach, and like got this guy's small dogs or something. And so I kind of wanted to go find this beach and like just like try to like from a distance see if I could see a jaguar, because I love that. They're like one of my favorite animals. They're super cool, very dangerous, very powerful, but I had no idea they were where we were staying. That's
so I know I said you should step into the fear. We got to compartmentalize the fear. Man.
Well, did you go in that cenote that was across from our hotel?
Yeah, I did. And it broke my GoPro.
Oh, no.
The pressure broke my GoPro.
Did you know there's a crocodile that lives in that cenote? His eyes.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Are you joking?
Yeah, there's a cenote. I mean, they feed it like the people that run the little rental thing. So it's not like it's been there since it was a baby. So I think it's kind of like,
but it's really there though. It's
really there. It's really there. It's got a little hangout spot. But I think that they feed it so it's not interested in people. Like reptiles, like they are lazy once they're fed. So they're not going to expend any more energy than they need to. Because I would think if somebody had gotten bit or eaten, like it wouldn't be.
What are we doing?
So they're like, oh, he's fine. He doesn't hurt anybody. I was like,
oh my God. I gotta listen. All right. I know I said it was the greatest experience, but now that I'm hearing all this other stuff, like I gotta go with a little bit more caution next time. Oh my God.
But look how nature didn't bother you, right? It was okay. You were out enjoying nature and it didn't eat you.
Oh man. Yeah, we went to a couple of the cenotes, man. We went to Dos Ojos that has the bats. So I'm not sure if you went there, but if you ever go back, check out Dos Ojos.
I heard that one's amazing. I did not go to it. We just had too short of a trip, but
yeah. I mean, to be honest, like Tulum, that's probably like a 4-hour flight. That's not a bad flight, to be honest. And 4 days is plenty of time to enjoy Tulum. I think we did a little bit longer just to avoid burnout again.
Yeah.
And that's why it was probably the best, because me and my girlfriend, we worked a lot, and we just said, we got to honor ourselves, give ourselves some time to enjoy one another and not have to check something or call anyone. Let's just figure it out while we're here. We spoke a little bit of Spanish, and we made it happen, man. I would definitely like to do it again one day.
Yeah,
sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, and where we were, do you remember the name of it was like Azul something or other, the hotel? That's okay. Maybe I'll look it up and put it in the description for the podcast after. But it was cool because it was this boutique little hotel. Like there weren't very many rooms there, and it was right on the water. But it was north of Tulum. It was like between Tulum and Akumal, and it was down this dirt road. So it was this super quiet area. So you're away from everything.
Cielo Maya was the name of the.
Oh, you guys were next door to us. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ours, I forget, but they were like kind of the same type of thing. But yeah, it was awesome. Yep. They have just like kayaks sitting on the beach that are up for grabs. Like you just go grab yourself a paddle and haul the kayak out, take it out whenever you want.
Yeah.
Super chill.
Yeah. I so the day that I met y'all, earlier that morning, I went out on the kayaks and I was trying to conquer my fear of getting in the water. I'm like, I got to get in the water. I like swimming in the ocean, but this one's a little bit different because there's not really a lot of people around. So there could be things here, right? So I got in and it was probably about 100 yards out. My feet could still touch the bottom. So I'm like, all right, this is cool, right? Mm-hmm. So I go out another 50, 100 yards and it starts to get a little bit deeper. And then I'm like, okay, so clearly this is a lot deeper than I thought. So let me get back in it, right? And I was like, you know what? It's daytime. I'm sure there's nothing out here. I'm going to go and pedal back. Boop, 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 boop. I'll go back later. Go back later. I meet y'all. We see a stingray. Mm-hmm. I don't get back in the water for the rest of the trip. Couldn't do it.
But you got to exercise the fear a little bit at a time, right?
A little bit at a time. I mean, it sounds like you're just jumping right in it trying to go find this Jaguar.
I mean, like I wanted to see it from a distance, but when I think about it, it's probably like, yeah, you probably don't want to even see it from a distance. Because you know what they do? So most cats like killed their prey by breaking their necks, and jaguars have such powerful jaws that they actually bite through the skulls of what they're killing. Like they'll get a full crocodile out of the water, just jump in like right on its skull and drag it out.
Right, so you said South Tulum, right? South Tulum.
The national park is down there.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about where all the jaguars hang out. So,
well, if there were any jaguars where we were, we definitely gave it every opportunity. We took the little rusted cheap bicycles from our hotel and tried to ride all the way in the city, which is like 20 kilometers. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. No. We probably went halfway and we're like, how much further do we have to go? And we're like, oh my God, we've been riding for like an hour. Humidity's like 900%. Yeah, lessons learned on that trip for sure. Lessons learned. So.
I was in Cambodia in 2013, and the hotel I was at had a little like rusted bicycle like that. And mind you, I'm awkward on a bicycle to begin with. Like I'm okay going a straight line, but as soon as I have to turn, I'm like I don't get this. And in Cambodia, they don't have any traffic laws, mind you. Like there's not stop signs and stoplights. Intersections are just free for all. You just go, or at least the area where I was in Siem Reap, where Angkor Wat is. And it's some of the roads are paved. A lot of them are dirt. And so, yeah, these intersections are just crazy, like people flying through on motos and cars and like going all different directions. And it's pretty wild. So I'm like going through the intersection. I'm like white knuckle, like, oh my God. Speaking of 99% humidity and like 100 degrees, you just like walk outside and you're instantly sweating. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah, man.
Wild. It was such
Cambodia. What would you say is your favorite destination thus far?
Colombia. It's just been a magical. So I've gone to Medellin twice, and then kind of within a couple hours of Medellin drive, and I've just had really magical experiences there the couple of times I've gone. And I even considered like, maybe I want to live here. And then I just thought being out of the country from my parents would be probably a little too difficult for me. But I don't know. It's just such an incredible place. Like the culture and the weather, at least in Medellin, is like perfect all year. They call it the city of eternal spring, and it's mountainous. And the city is just really cool looking because you see all these like, a lot of them are like tan buildings, like sticking up out of the mountains, and it's jungle too. Like it's like a jungle kind of environment. So if you go like outside of the city, I went hiking outside of the city. There's like this next suburb over called Envigado. And there's some cool hiking trails there, and did like a really cool waterfall hike. And then you like look out and you see just like all the crops on the hillsides, and I don't know, it's just magical. It's just, yeah.
I went out there a few years ago. I didn't do any of the hiking and all that awesome stuff that you did, but I will put that on the to-do list. I actually so you're used to like mountains and stuff like that, right? I'm not used to mountains.
You get altitude.
I'm East Coast.
Yeah.
I'm used to cities and skyscrapers, not mountains, right? So landed in Medellin, and it took us about 2 hours. I think 2 hours from the airport to get to the city.
It's 50 minutes to the city, but it could have depended on where you were staying as well.
Maybe it felt like 2 hours because of the altitude sickness that I was starting to get coming from the airport. It was crazy. I didn't know what it was, but I think just being dehydrated and being, what is it, like 10,000 feet up, I can't handle that. I don't know. Call me weak. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. But I couldn't do it. And I had the worst headache going into the city. And then once we got into the valley, we were at, how do you say it? Poblado,
yeah.
Poblado, yeah. Everything started to kind of subside because I guess we were now level. But I love Medellin for sure.
Yeah, it was cool. I want to go back. I really want to go back in the new year if I can get a chance. Because I know, I don't know about with this new variant, but they've been open, like, because they were pretty locked down for a while. And then my friends that are there, and they said it's like all open now, but I don't know if they're going to change stuff with the variant. But yeah, I want to go there again.
Good luck. Hopefully you can.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. If not, we'll wait. But with the altitude, it could have been like the plane could have messed you up too. I had an experience with it, and I'm used to altitude, right? So I was beginning to get a little bit of a cold, and I went on a plane, and my sinuses were like already congested, and that will make you feel really screwed up after if you have any kind of like allergy sinus stuff going on. So, and plus you said you're dehydrated. So your equilibrium is going to be all off if you're dehydrated too. So that could have been it. Cause I don't think Medellin's that high. I think it's like 5,000 feet or so. I think it's like Denver, which is still high if you're not used to it, but yeah.
I'm getting there. Denver, when I went to Denver, I made sure it didn't happen again. So I drank an unnecessary amount of water. I'm a little extra.
Good.
With it, but I just didn't want to experience it again. And I know they call it Mile High City, so I wanted to make sure that I was able to enjoy it.
That's smart. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are like, let me drink a bunch of alcohol and not drink any water and take too many edibles.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
tell me. Yeah. Tell me about Loud, because I want to make sure that we get to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So Loud stands for Language of Universal Dialect, right? So that's the acronym for my company. It's called Loud Apparel. And pretty much we make clothes here to start conversations, right? We want to be able to reach people who connect with what we connect with, right? Which is pretty much everything. Language of universal dialect, music, right? Music doesn't necessarily speak English. Music doesn't speak Spanish or Mandarin, right? Music is music. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If it hits you, it hits, right? And I think that's the most beautiful thing about music, right? Is that it can come in so many forms. It could be nature, right? It could be actual sound. But at the end of the day, there's some rhythm in everything. So that's what we do. This particular shirt hasn't been released. It'll be released next year. But this was one of the, and obviously I'm not sure if you know what the semicolon represents, but I found out there's a lot of people that don't know what the semicolon represents. This particular one is bringing awareness to individuals dealing with suicide or mental health issues. Um, Again, that conversation that we had earlier about mental health, it's really big. And I think that a lot of people aren't really understanding when they're dealing with things that it could be because there is an imbalance, not necessarily a chemical imbalance, but just their life is imbalanced. They haven't done that reset, right? They haven't honored themselves to say, okay, how can I get myself back here? Some people need help. Some people need like assistance through medication. Some people need time, right? Time away from technology, time away from people, things, right? Disconnect. And that's pretty much what this is for. It's to let folks know who've gone through it, maybe thoughts of suicide, people who are dealing with it and they're aware that they're dealing with it. It's to say, hey, I'm an ally. I'm on your side. I know I've dealt with, growing up, I've dealt with situations to where I was affected mentally, stressed out, just thinking about things that aren't normal. And for me, music has always been a scapegoat. So I love all sorts of types of music, hip hop, EDM. I listen to bachata, merengue, French music, Afro house, like you name it. If it's got a beat and I connect with it, I'm gonna listen to it, right? So I'm not bound to my environment. I make the world my environment, right? So I'm always searching for something new. So that's pretty much what this is just letting people know that we're here. We've got different types of releases. We do one release a month. The website is currently being finished, so it'll be ready come January 1. And yeah, I hope that anyone that's watching this will be willing to support the cause, because we've got some pretty cool stuff in store.
Yeah. So the website's not up yet, but where can people find information about Loud right now?
theloudapparel.com.
Okay. And then you have an Instagram for it too, right?
Yes. And it's the same handle at the Loud Apparel. Yep. So send the request, boom, follow, put your notifications on. We'll have some pretty cool giveaways coming out here soon. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. And for those of you that are listening and not watching the YouTube version of this, you can go there and see what this shirt looks like. It's a really cool graphic. It's got sound bars that kind of spell out loud, but in sound bars.
She caught that.
I did catch that. And there's a semicolon at the beginning. So you started to explain semicolon, but you didn't explain like why it talks about suicide awareness. So in the English language, the semicolon gets used not so much anymore, I feel like, unless you're like a grammar nerd, but when you're joining two sentences together. So you can have a sentence where it's two separate thoughts, and you can put a period in between so that it's two brand new sentences, two separate sentences, or you can connect them with a semicolon. So the idea is that the author chose not to end the sentence. They chose to continue it and start a new thought within the same sentence. So that's why it indicates suicide awareness and prevention.
Yes.
So you're choosing not to end the
Keep going. Keep going. Whatever you're going through, keep going.
Keep going with the story. It gets better.
Yeah, definitely does.
Sometimes it gets worse first, but there's always going to be periods of better too. Always.
Different folks have different ways of finding that. Maybe music isn't, for you. Maybe it could be writing, maybe it could be reading. It could be riding a bike and, making a turn, doing something that kind of wakes you up. But if you are going through something, exactly. Looking for Jaguars. If you are going through something, and don't be afraid to reach out to loved ones for help. And just remember that you have to give yourself time, give yourself a chance. Everything doesn't happen overnight. And, just like, you go to sleep at night praying that you wake up the next morning, there's a good chance that you probably are, right? So just keep that positive mindset that whatever it is that you're going through, you can come out on top because you have that ability to. I always like to use the analogy, which it might not be true, but that you were like a 1 in like 10 trillion sperm, and you made it to the egg to get here. So listen, you're a fighter. You can do it. Don't allow those who don't understand you to hold more weight than you allow. And just believe in yourself. Really believe in yourself.
Yeah, I have dealt with suicidal thoughts in the past myself, and I've been there. And I think for me, it's just always, when I've hit those lows, it's just like knowing that when you go through a low, you always end up learning something from it. And like things on the other side just always end up being better than life even was before that. Not right away. It takes time, like you said, but eventually, like, there's always beauty in the lesson. And then when you share your lesson, whatever you learned, like, it helps other people that are going through the same thing. So you never know, like, what you're going through today, like how it might help somebody else in the future and change things for them.
Yeah. Not to get super personal, but I just kind of want to open up on this, but college, I was in Atlanta and went through a really, really difficult time where I lost a lot of close people, like a lot, like close people, like not like, oh, I know this person. No, like, yo, this is like, yeah, we right here with it. Right. And I hit a really dark space, and I went through those types of thoughts, and I'm just like, what's the point of anything? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it'll never be the same. What's the point? Right. And I talked to someone, I'm not going to go into who that was, but I talked to someone who told me something that kind of changed my life, right? As a man, right? We're told that we got to be like strong, and I was trying to be strong, right? I was like, nah, I'm good. I can handle it. I got it together, blah, blah, blah. Just trying to keep it all in, not realizing that energy is just eating you from the inside out, right? And they told me, they said, you know what? It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry as much as you want. Let it all out. Whatever you have in you, let it out. However you need to let it out. If you need to scream it as loud as you can with every tear coming out of every tear duct you have, make it happen. And I felt that release, right? And it allowed me to expunge all that energy. And it was still hard, but at least I knew it was okay to feel the pain and let the pain out, right? And not be looked at, at any type of way like, oh, this person's weird, even though no one knows what this person is going through. So not everyone is going to know what you're going through. And however you are feeling, it's okay to feel that way. So allow yourself to go through those emotions. We're complex individuals. We've got a lot of different emotions. Allow yourself to experience those emotions and move past it. So
absolutely.
Sorry.
No, that's really important, especially I feel like for men today, because I think so many men get taught like it's not okay to be emotional or to feel things or to cry, or it's like kind of like, I feel like anger ends up being the only accepted emotion a lot of times for men, which honestly, like even anger, it's good to be angry sometimes and get that out because at least you're getting stuff out. But like it's definitely okay to feel shitty and feel sad and cry and let it out.
I think that's why females live longer than men, because y'all let it out.
Maybe.
Y'all don't hold on.
Not all of us, but I think it's at least more socially acceptable for women to do it. It's I have a hard time crying, and like there's some times where I like wish I could cry more, but it's more like my upbringing. We're not in a emotionally sharing family, and so like it's a little bit upbringing too. So it's like as an adult learning how to like, okay, how do I feel my feelings? But it's okay to be there too. And it's okay to learn and just.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're here, right? We're here to learn every single day, something. I've learned a couple of things just talking to you today. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you
and,
too.
I'll be able to take it with me moving forward. So,
yeah. So I know with your clothing company that you're doing, you've got a vision for more, like you're not just trying to make money with it or something. You're using it for communication. Big picture, like wildest dreams, what do you see that turning into?
Wildest dream.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
so
what's like the biggest version of it you see happening or like would want to happen?
um a festival.
A festival.
A
Okay.
festival.
Tell
Like
me more.
wildest dream, definitely
Yeah.
a festival. Yeah, definitely. Now obviously it couldn't be called Loud Festival because they have Rolling Loud already, but I've got other names. But a festival would be my main goal because I've always been fans of like Tiesto, Armin van Buuren, those guys. I'm hoping to actually see Lane 8 next April. Can't wait. He'll be here in North Carolina, so this will be my first time seeing him. He
Nice.
actually we actually played. This might be a little personal, but we actually played Lane 8 for the delivery of my daughter. So she loves Lane 8. And I think it's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
I swear to God.
You
I
should
swear.
you should send him a DM on Instagram telling him that because he's a family guy. I feel like he would appreciate that. I mean, I don't know the guy, but I just that he would
It's
appreciate
true.
that.
I mean, that's like honestly, like when she's like up, that's what puts her to sleep. Like if we're just having issues like getting her to sleep and she's just like, nah, I don't want to go to sleep right now, Dad. We'll put on some Lane 8 and it's just, man, it's
That's
great.
amazing. I saw him, I think you already know this, but I saw him at Red Rocks a couple months or like a month ago. It was incredible.
And then like they made like everyone turn off their cell phones or something like that, right?
Well, that's his thing. So his label is called This Never Happened, because his shows used to be called like This Never Happened. And the whole premise is like, I don't want cell phones. Like you don't need to like, be putting this message through the internet or whatever to show people it happened. Like, I just want you to be here and be present. So he takes, he doesn't take your phone, but they give you like a pouch to put it in, like a secure pouch that they have to unlock at the entrance. That way you just have your phone in a pouch. So you're not whipping it out.
See, that's amazing, right? That is amazing. It's saying, hey, if you come here, you're going to enjoy this moment. No distractions, no influencer level type stuff. Nah, just take it. Take it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So having Lane 8 at my festival is everything.
All right. So I have to ask you the question that we close the podcast with. What does happiness mean to you?
Oh man, she's coming with the questions today. Happiness. Happiness is doing the things I like to do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very simple. Very simple. And that's it. I don't need a whole lot, being in Tulum or anywhere that I go where I guess you have to spend money to get to these places. But when you get to those places to disconnect and enjoy the moment, that's what I want to do at that moment in time and not have to worry about anything that really doesn't matter to my day-to-day, which is eating, sleeping, and enjoying good water or adventures, whatever the case may be. So just doing what I want to do at that moment. If I'm home, if I just want to go and design, that makes me happy. If I want to just go play with my daughter, it makes me happy, right? So just simple things that I think that's the key for me. Yeah, definitely the key.
That's beautiful.
Not looking for others' approval, I think is the easiest way to capture that happiness. And that's it. So I'm pretty happy right now.
Heck yeah. I love that. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us today. And it's been a pleasure. I loved this conversation. And I'll link to Loud Apparel. And do you want me to link to your personal Instagram or do you want to keep that one?
Either way, yeah, let's go for the ride. That one can go too. Teal
Yeah.
scope.
Teal scope. Yeah. And the car, M3 Hefe.
Hey, yes, you can follow M3 Hefe if you like. Hefe will be going through some cosmetic changes here in the next few weeks. So,
ooh. What are you doing, or is it a surprise?
It's a surprise.
Okay, all right. I'll wait.
It's a surprise. Put it this way. Right now, he's Le Mans blue, but he's gonna go with something a little bit more tropical.
Ooh, I'm excited to see what that is. I wonder if it's the color I'm thinking in my head. Is it a BMW color?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. This is a whole different animal. I've never seen it before, so I'm excited.
I was thinking maybe a Laguna Seca blue, but
so here's the thing. If I go with it, I'd probably have to repaint it again because I'm gonna do a wrap, and I think wraps kind of mess up your paint a little bit. So I'm still kind of on edge if I want to do that. But I'm probably going to do it and then just get it repainted if I have to. But yeah, this color is about to be sick. Like,
all right. I can't wait to see. All right. Well, I'll link M3 Hefe in the description too, so people can follow the cosmetic journey that's about to happen.
Awesome.
All right. Well, have an excellent day. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.